the hidden compost layer that triples breakdown speed. Gardeners are freaking out. If you've ever stared at your compost pile wondering why it's taking forever to break down, you're not alone. Gardeners everywhere want fast, rich, crumbly compost, but most never realize that their pile is missing one crucial component. And no, it's not more kitchen scraps or more green material. There's a hidden compost layer almost nobody talks about, yet it has the power to triple decomposition speed, eliminate foul smells, stabilize moisture, and, honestly, supercharge the microbial engine of your pile. Once I started using it in my own composting system, the difference was dramatic. My piles heated faster, finished sooner, and produced deeper, richer humus than ever before. Today on Soilpower, I'm bringing this technique directly to you, so you can unlock faster compost, bigger harvests, and healthier soil, season after season. The secret layer, the microbial inoculation zone. Many gardeners think composting is just about balancing greens and browns, but there's an advanced layer that expert compost makers quietly rely on. I call it the microbial inoculation zone, a thin, intentional layer added between the compost lifts to dramatically accelerate breakdown. This layer isn't a single ingredient, but a microbe-dense, nutrient-priming mixture that sparks rapid biological activity the moment it touches your pile. Without it, your compost still decomposes, eventually. With it, the process ignites like dry wood meeting a match. Let's break down exactly what this hidden layer is, how it works, and how you can use it to transform your composting forever. Why most compost decomposes slowly, and why it's not your fault. If your compost takes months longer than expected, it's usually because the microbial workforce is small, stressed, or underfed. Microbes do the heavy lifting in composting, breaking down fibers, digesting lignin, converting waste into humus, but just like a team of workers, they need. So, microbes need the right food, a suitable environment, and, honestly, high population numbers to really get going. Most compost piles, actually lack all three of these things. Even experienced gardeners often forget that a pile's speed depends on how quickly microbial colonies multiply, not just on the green to brown ratio. That's where the microbial inoculation zone steps in. This layer focuses on one thing, giving microbes a massive head start. If your microbes wake early and multiply rapidly, well, your pile heats earlier, runs hotter, stabilizes longer, and finishes faster. The three ingredients that make up the microbial inoculation zone, yeah, that's the secret. This special layer is created by combining three powerhouse ingredients. You can customize the ratios based on what you have, but the roles of each one, well, they always stay the same. Partially decomposed compost or forest soil is, well, the microbial starter. This is really the foundation. A scoop of something alive, Think of it kinda like adding a sourdough starter to bread dough. Without it, sure, the process still works, but it's slow, inconsistent, and honestly, a bit unpredictable. Using just a small amount of active compost or that top layer of forest soil injects trillions of ready-to-work microbes right into your pile. These microbes, they instantly wake up, latch onto new organic material, and begin digesting it within just a few hours. The best sources for your microbial starter include last season's finished compost, a handful of dark woodland soil worm castings, and of course leaf mold, which is extremely rich in microbes. You only need a thin, even layer for the effect to kick in. That's really all it takes. High-energy microbial food, or what I like to call the acceleration fuel, is really essential for microbes to multiply at high speed. Microbes need energy-rich fuel to do their thing. When you add this fuel in a layer, instead of mixing it throughout, it actually becomes a concentrated buffet for the microbial starter. So, think of it kinda like combining workers, those are the microbes, with lunch, which is the fuel, all in the same room. That's really when productivity just skyrockets. Ideal microbial foods include, well, a few options. Molasses diluted in water, which is honestly my personal favorite, ground oats, or oatmeal coffee grounds, fresh grass clippings in small controlled amounts, and of course, compost tea concentrate. Molasses deserves special mention. A tablespoon diluted in a liter of water is enough to feed billions of microbes instantly. When poured lightly onto the microbe layer, it acts like jet fuel. Third, a moisture-stabilizing carbon layer, also known as the microbial shelter. To multiply rapidly, microbes need consistent moisture, not too wet, not too dry. A thin layer of fine, moisture-holding carbon provides the perfect habitat. Good choices include chopped straw, shredded leaves, sawdust, though you should use that sparingly, shredded cardboard or paper, and partially decomposed wood chips. This layer isn't intended to balance your greens, it's there to lock in humidity and give microbes a protective home as they multiply. Together, these three elements create a supercharged biological layer that turns each level of your compost into a fermentation engine. How to add the microbial inoculation zone to your compost pile. The process is simple, but, precision really matters. The goal isn't thickness, it's strategic layering. Alright, so step 1 is to build your compost as usual. Start by laying down a standard carbon layer. Think leaves, straw, or even some shredded cardboard. Then add a green layer, like kitchen scraps, grass, or plant trimmings. For best results, you'll want to aim for lifts that are about 4 to 6 inches thick. Now, step 2 is to add the microbial inoculation zone. On top of each lift, add a thin layer, just about half an inch. This should be made up of a handful of live compost or leaf mold, plus a splash of diluted molasses or a handful of microbial food, and finally, a sprinkle of shredded leaves or some fine carbon. It should look like a dusting, not a layer of mulch. Thinness is key because, microbes move vertically much faster than they do horizontally. You're actually creating multiple biological ignition points throughout the pile. Step 3. Repeat every 2 to 3 lifts. If your compost bin is tall, just apply this special layer every 12 to 18 inches, and in a tumbler, add it with every major batch. Step 4. Keep moisture balanced. The inoculation layer helps stabilize moisture, but compost still prefers that wrung-out sponge level. If you want peak speed, never let it dry out. So, what happens inside the pile after you add the layer? Well, once the microbial inoculation zone is in place, the pile basically becomes self-heating. Within about 24 to 48 hours, 3 things start to happen. First, microbes surge in population. The combination of the microbial starter and molasses, it just hits the pile like lightning. Populations really explode, and decomposition shifts from being passive to, very active. Second, heat rises rapidly. A well-built pile can reach between 130 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit way faster than a standard one. That heat is a direct sign that the microbes are, honestly, firing on all cylinders. So, organic matter just melts down, Lignin, fibers, cellulose, these are the toughest materials in your pile, but they actually collapse sooner than you'd expect. Even really stubborn items, like corn cobs, thick stems, and those tough leaves, start to break down weeks earlier. And this is exactly why experienced composters use inoculation layers without really talking much about it. It's honestly like adding a turbocharger to your composting engine. Why does this layer work so much better than just mixing the pile? Well, a lot of gardeners think aeration is the main bottleneck in composting and, sure, oxygen is crucial, but it's not actually the limiting factor in slow piles. The real bottleneck is microbial mass and energy. Turning the pile introduces oxygen, but, it doesn't add microbes. Mixing greens and browns balances nitrogen, but it doesn't multiply microbes. The microbial inoculation zone is more effective because it does what turning just cannot do. It increases the biological workforce, feeds them exactly where they're needed, and keeps them moist and protected so they can reproduce. Once that process gets started, the pile pretty much self-regulates. How does this method help every type of gardener? Well, whether you're working with a compost bin, a tumbler, an open heap, or even a worm bin, this technique really applies across the board. Here's why it works for everyone. Beginners especially benefit from reliability. Even if your greens and browns aren't perfectly balanced, the inoculation layer kind of compensates by boosting biological activity. Experienced gardeners benefit from speed. If you've ever wished your compost finished in half the time, well, this is the missing link. Container and small space gardeners benefit from efficiency. A fast hot pile means fewer pests, fewer smells, and less waiting. Organic growers benefit from high nutrient density. Faster decomposition means nutrients remain bioavailable, not lost to rain, mold, or long-term oxidation. So, let me tell you about my personal Soilpower compost strategy using this layer. On my own Soilpower composting system, I always incorporate this layer, especially during the active growing season when I need compost fast. When building a pile, I work in clear cycles, 2 lifts, then 1 inoculation layer, and then I just repeat that process. The molasses is always diluted, never poured thick, and the microbial starter is either forest soil or leaf mold depending on the season. My piles now break down so efficiently that the interior collapses by about 40% within the first week. I get dark, earthy, sweet-smelling compost in record time, and honestly, this is the exact system I want you to benefit from too. When you will see results? Well, if you build your next pile using the inoculation layer, you can expect noticeable heat in about 48 hours, visible shrinking in 5 to 7 days, and a fully mature compost batch in 30 to 50% less time. Plus, you'll get softer, richer humus overall. And hey, if your climate is warm, results may appear even faster. So, even with the secret layer, there are a few common mistakes you'll definitely want to avoid. First up, don't drown the pile. Molasses water should dampen, not soak the layer. Also, don't use thick grass layers because they compact and really slow down airflow. Remember, don't skip carbon. The inoculation layer accelerates decomposition, but carbon is what actually prevents rot. And, don't forget oxygen. Turning is still helpful, even if it's not the main factor for speed. Alright, here are some final thoughts. Once you start using the microbial inoculation zone, your composting process will be smoother, faster, and honestly, way more satisfying. The transformation inside the pile is just incredible. And trust me, the results you'll see in your soil will be even better. As gardeners, we spend so much time investing in seeds, amendments, tools, and techniques, but this is one of those rare methods that costs almost nothing, uses what you already have, and pays back every single time you build a pile. Try this in your next compost batch. Your soil and your plants will thank you. If you found this helpful, this is just one of the many soil boosting techniques we share here at Soilpower. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more real science-backed, gardener-tested strategies, subscribe to Soilpower and share this article with another gardener who loves soil wisdom. Let's keep growing smarter, healthier, and more powerfully, together.